So the leaks for One Piece 1152 just dropped, and there's so much to get to. In this one chapter alone, we get lore on young Shanks, we get Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro learning about Conqueror's Haki, and Loki finally gives the explanation as to why he was framed for killing his father. We're gonna get right into it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So the title is called A Terrible Day, and it starts with a conversation between Gaban, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. Gaban looks at the trio and says, looks like there's more than one person who has the color of the Conqueror. And Sanji, of course being Sanji, steps up thinking he's referring to him, but Gaban completely ignores him and says, the swordsman over there looks like your body is used to it. And this is news to Zoro. He's like, the color of the Conqueror, I don't even know what that means. And Luffy interjects saying, wait, huh? You didn't know? You've been leaking it this whole time. And Gaban is looking at these three going back and forth, and he's like, y'all gotta be kidding me. Haki is only useful if you can recognize and control it. And then he turns to Zoro directly and says, how do you intend to support your captain who was one of the 4 emperors? And we see Zoro in the bottom left corner looking kinda ashamed, like, dang, that's true. How am I gonna support Luffy? At this point, Sanji is pissed the fuck off, and he's trying to get Gaban's attention, but he's completely interrupted because Loki and Hajruden are having this real intense and heated argument. Loki really wants to go and fight for Elbaf, but Hajruden refuses to let him free. He even goes as far as to call his brother disgrace and says, you're gonna really let these outsiders defend your homeland when Elbaf has me? And Hajruden claps back immediately. He's like, I don't know what I'm gonna get with you. We might get into battle and you might switch sides on us right there. Then Luffy out of nowhere says something that surprises literally everybody in the panel. He says, hey Loki, why don't you become one of my crew? And then he turns to Hajruden and says, if Loki's part of my crew, you can release him, right? And immediately Zoro and Sanji start piping up. They're like, that's not a good idea. That doesn't even make logistical sense. He's huge. How is he gonna fit on the boat? He's gonna eat all the food. And while this is happening, Hajruden notices something about Loki, and it's the fact that he intrinsically trusts Loki. And while Hajruden trusts Luffy's instincts, he still needs a little bit more from his brother before he trusts him. So Hajruden says, before I even think about freeing Loki, I need him to tell me everything that happened that day. So then we get a flashback of Loki explaining what happened 14 years ago and what he calls a really terrible day. On that fateful day 14 years ago, Loki and JaeRiddle were both called to the castle. You can kind of tell by Loki's body language that at this point in time, him and JaeRiddle were on really good terms, you might even say friends. But when they got to the throne room, something immediately fell off. The guard at the door was refusing to open the door, so Loki pretty much kicked him through it. And when they entered the throne room, Loki and JaeRiddle were shocked to see Harold had been stabbed several times by his own men. And side note, at this point, all we can see is Harold's silhouette, so we don't know if he was transformed into a demon or not, but if you squint hard enough, it does vaguely look like Harold had wings. At the bottom of the page, we see JaeRiddle yelling Harold, and Loki says, what the hell are you guys doing? The point of view then switches to Gaban and Shanks, who are bathing in a thermal bath outside of Gaban's house. And at this point, Gaban is living in Elbaf, so he's not too far from the castle. You can also see Gaban was much younger at the time. Half his hair is gray, half his hair is black, and his signature braided beard is also black, so you can tell this is kind of more of a middle-aged Gaban. I'd also like you to take note that on Shanks' left arm, you see a tattoo that he obviously doesn't have anymore, and I'm sure this tattoo is related to him being of Celestial Dragon descent, more importantly related to the Holy Knights. As we know, his father is like the Michael Jordan of Holy Knight. Gaban jokes that it's been about 3 or 4 years since they last met, and Shanks says, nah, it's been a decade, which means they haven't seen each other since Roger passed. Shanks goes on to say how much his life has changed and how he really just wanted to live a simple life as a pirate with Buggy. And Gaban cuts him off and says, well, you are the child of prophecy, so let's not talk about these complicated things today. Which basically confirms that Shanks was indeed the child of destiny. They then proceed to catch up on the last 10 years and share different tales of various adventures. And then eventually Shanks meets Gaban's wife and kid. And after they're done exchanging stories and catching up, Shanks moves on to more serious matters and explains why he's in Elbaf, which is to talking Harold about something. Then at the exact same time their conversation shifts, we see a mysterious shadowy figure in the castle opening the treasure room with the legendary Akuma no Mi chest. And then the final 2 pages gives us an epic double spread of another flashback that takes place 109 years ago. And the narrator says, going back even further in time, 109 years ago, in a time where if you ask anyone who lives on the seas, the thing you fear most in this world will be the giant pirates. And we see the great Eric chasing a ship in the sea with a young Dory and Broggy and a few other giants that look pretty familiar. But we also see another giant ship docked in the human kingdom. The narrator adds, at the same time, an official ship coming from the Kingdom of Giants acts as another reason as to why the name Elbaf is associated with absolute terror. And then on the left panel, we see a young Prince Harold who looks exactly like Loki, seemingly smashing another giant into the side of the castle. Mind you, based on the text, it looks like the princess and the king are currently in the castle that the giant is being smashed into. And while this is happening, we see Harold laughing maniacally saying, who is your god now? And the chapter ends with the narrator saying, Harold, the king of Elbaf, who ascended to the throne at the young age of 45, 15 in human age, was a real jerk. So that's where the chapter ends. I need to make a quick clarification. There actually is no break next week. We will be getting chapter 1153, which means Oda doesn't plan on stopping this ship anytime soon. Peak is coming. Peak is on the way. Another great chapter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you're looking forward to, and while you're there, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell.